The midnight warning, the whisper in the dark. My name is Harold Bennett, and I am 72 years old. For most of my life, I believed that nothing in the world could truly surprise me anymore. After all, I had lived through wars, economic crises, and the painful loss of my beloved wife, Margaret, who passed away 6 years ago after a long battle with cancer. But the night my granddaughter Lily woke me up shaking with fear changed everything I thought I knew about my family. It was a quiet Thursday night in late October. The kind of night where the wind brushes softly against the windows and the house creaks in a way that reminds you how old it is. I had been living with my daughter, Amanda, and my 8-year-old granddaughter, Lily, for almost 3 years now. After Margaret died, Amanda insisted that I move in with them. "Dad, you shouldn't live alone," she told me one evening over the phone. "You'll have your own room, and Lily would love having you around." At the time, it felt like a blessing. Lily was the light of my life, a bright, curious little girl with big brown eyes that seemed to notice everything. She loved listening to my old stories about when her grandmother and I were young. Sometimes she would sit beside me on the couch for hours, asking questions about everything from the moon to dinosaurs to why people lie. Amanda, my daughter, worked long hours as a pharmaceutical sales manager. She traveled often, attended late meetings, and sometimes came home looking exhausted. Still, she always tried to maintain the image of a perfect mother. Dinner on the table, Lily's homework checked, a quick goodnight kiss before Lily went to bed. At least that's what things looked like on the surface. But in the past few months, something about Amanda had begun to change. It started with small things. She began locking her office door at night. Her phone calls became quieter, often taken outside on the porch. And sometimes, when she thought no one was watching, I noticed a strange tension in her face, a kind of frustration I had never seen before, but I ignored it. Parents don't want to imagine bad things about their own children. That night, I went to bed around 10:30. The house was silent except for the distant hum of the refrigerator downstairs. I remember glancing at the photograph on my nightstand before turning off the lamp. It was an old picture of Margaret and me standing on a beach in Florida, laughing while the wind blew her hair across her face. "Good night, Maggie," I whispered softly, the way I always did. Then I closed my eyes. I must have fallen asleep quickly because the next thing I remember was the sound of someone whispering my name. "Grandpa." At first, I thought I was dreaming. But then I felt a small hand shaking my shoulder. "Grandpa, wake up." I opened my eyes slowly. The room was dark except for the faint glow of the hallway light. Standing beside my bed was Lily. Her small face looked pale, almost ghost-like in the dim light. Her hands were trembling. "Lily," I said groggily, sitting up in bed. "Sweetheart, what's wrong?" "Did you have a nightmare?" She shook her head quickly. Her eyes were wide with fear, real fear, the kind that makes your stomach tighten even before you know why. She leaned closer to me, her voice barely louder than a breath. "Grandpa, don't drink the milk in the kitchen." For a moment, I just stared at her, confused. "What do you mean?" I asked gently. Her fingers gripped the sleeve of my pajama shirt. "I saw Mom put something in it." The words hung in the dark room like a cold draft. I frowned. "Sweetheart, maybe you misunderstood," I said softly. "Your mom probably just added something for cooking or—" "No," Lily whispered urgently, her voice cracked slightly. "I saw her." I studied her face more carefully. Children sometimes imagine things, especially after bad dreams, but Lily had never been a child who lied or exaggerated, and the fear in her eyes did not look like imagination. "When did this happen?" I asked quietly. "Tonight," she said, "after you went to bed." She glanced nervously toward the hallway. "I woke up because I was thirsty. I went downstairs, but I heard Mom talking on the phone in the kitchen." "What did she say?" I asked. Lily hesitated. Her small lip trembled slightly. "She said once he drinks it, everything will finally be solved." A chill ran through my body. "That doesn't mean she was talking about you," I said quickly, though my voice sounded less confident than I wanted. But Lily shook her head again. "She was holding your glass, Grandpa." The silence that followed felt heavy. For the first time, a tiny spark of doubt flickered in my mind, but it was impossible. Amanda was my daughter. I raised her, I knew her better than anyone, or at least I believed I did. "Okay," I said finally, forcing a calm tone. "Let's go downstairs and check, all right? Maybe we'll find a simple explanation." Lily nodded slowly, but she grabbed my hand tightly before we stepped into the hallway. Her fingers were ice cold. The house felt different in the middle of the night. Every sound seemed louder: the creak of the wooden stairs, the ticking clock in the living room, even the wind tapping lightly against the windows. When we reached the bottom of the stairs, the kitchen light was off. Amanda's bedroom door upstairs remained closed. Everything looked normal, too normal. I walked slowly toward the kitchen counter. There, exactly where it always was, sat a tall glass of milk. Amanda had a habit of leaving a glass for me every night before bed. She always said it helped me sleep better. For years, I had appreciated the gesture. Now, for the first time, that glass looked different, suspicious. Lily squeezed my hand. Grandpa, don't touch it. I leaned closer to the counter. At first glance, the milk looked perfectly ordinary, but then I noticed something strange. Floating near the surface were tiny white grains, almost invisible, like powder that hadn't fully dissolved. My heart began to pound. Stay here, I whispered. I opened the cabinet above the sink and grabbed a small spoon. Carefully, I stirred the milk. The grains swirled slowly through the liquid. My stomach twisted. What is that? Lily whispered behind me. I didn't answer. Instead, I leaned down and smelled the glass. A faint chemical scent tickled my nose. It wasn't strong. But it definitely wasn't normal milk. At that moment, a quiet sound came from the hallway behind us. A soft creak, the kind made by someone stepping carefully on old wood. Lily's grip tightened on my arm. Slowly, we both turned toward the doorway. And there, standing in the shadows of the hallway, was Amanda. Her arms were crossed. Her expression was completely unreadable. For several long seconds, no one spoke. Then Amanda's eyes shifted from me to the glass of milk on the counter, and when she spoke, her voice was calm. Too calm, Dad, she said quietly. Why are you awake? The glass on the counter, Amanda's voice cut through the silence like a knife. Dad, why are you awake? For a moment, no one moved. The kitchen clock ticked loudly on the wall, each second echoing through the room. I could feel Lily trembling beside me. Her small fingers clutched my arm as if letting go might cause the world to collapse. I forced myself to speak calmly. I couldn't sleep, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. So I came down for the milk you left me. Amanda stepped forward into the light. Her hair was tied back in a loose bun, and she wore the same gray sweater she had on during dinner earlier that evening. But something about her expression was different. Her eyes were sharp, alert. Almost calculating, she glanced at the glass in my hand, then her gaze slowly moved to Lily. What are you doing out of bed? She asked. Lily froze. I could feel her heart pounding through her small body. She had a nightmare, I answered before Lily could speak. Amanda's lips formed a thin smile. Did she? For a moment, it felt like she was studying us, like a scientist observing two insects under a microscope. Then she walked into the kitchen, each step slow, measured. She stopped just a few feet from the counter. Her eyes settled on the glass again. You were going to drink that? She asked casually. Yes, I replied. A strange silence followed. Amanda tilted her head slightly. Then she reached out and took the glass from my hand. Well, she said, you shouldn't. Before I could react, she walked to the sink and poured the milk down the drain. The white liquid disappeared into the dark hole with a quiet swirl. Lily gasped softly beside me. Amanda turned on the faucet and rinsed the glass. When she turned back to face us, she looked perfectly calm, too calm. There, she said lightly. Problem solved, I frowned. What do you mean? Amanda shrugged. It was old milk. I realized that after I poured it earlier. I stared at her. Amanda, you always check the milk before pouring it. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she wiped the glass with a towel, then she placed it back on the counter. Well, she said finally, everyone makes mistakes. Her eyes drifted toward Lily again. And little girls shouldn't be wandering around the house in the middle of the night. Lily tightened her grip on my sleeve. I could feel the fear radiating from her. Amanda, I said slowly, Lily told me she saw you put something in the milk. The air in the kitchen seemed to freeze. Amanda's eyes narrowed slightly, then she laughed, not a warm laugh. A short, cold one. Dad, she's 8 years old. She imagined it. Lily suddenly stepped forward. I didn't imagine it, she cried. Her voice trembled, but she stood her ground. I saw you put white powder in Grandpa's glass. Amanda's face changed. The calm mask slipped for just a moment, and beneath it I saw anger, real anger. Lily, Amanda said sharply. You need to stop making things up. I'm not lying, Lily insisted. Amanda slammed the towel onto the counter. That's enough. Her voice echoed through the kitchen. Lily flinched. I felt a deep knot tighten in my stomach. Amanda, I said quietly, there were grains in the milk. She looked at me again. This time her eyes were colder. Dad, she said slowly, are you really going to believe a child's fantasy over your own daughter? The question hung in the air. For 72 years, I had trusted Amanda completely. She was my only child. I had raised her after her mother died. I had sacrificed everything to give her a good life. But now, standing in that kitchen, something felt terribly wrong. I'm not accusing you of anything, I said carefully. I'm just asking what was in the milk. Amanda crossed her arms. Nothing, then why throw it away so quickly? She stared at me for several seconds. Then she smiled again, that same strange smile. Because I didn't want you drinking spoiled milk. The answer sounded reasonable, yet something about it felt hollow. Lily tugged my arm again. Grandpa, please. Her voice was barely a whisper. Amanda heard it, her gaze snapped toward Lily. Go to bed. The command was cold and sharp. Lily didn't move. Now, Amanda added, I placed a gentle hand on Lily's shoulder. Go upstairs, sweetheart. But it's okay, I said softly. I'll be right behind you. Reluctantly, Lily turned and walked toward the stairs. Halfway up, she looked back at me. Her eyes were filled with fear, then she disappeared into the darkness of the hallway. The house fell silent again. Now it was just Amanda and me, standing face to face in the kitchen. Amanda, I said slowly, we need to talk. She sighed. Dad, please don't start. Start what? This, she gestured vaguely around the room, the suspicion. The drama? I'm not creating drama, I replied. I'm trying to understand why my granddaughter thinks you tried to poison me. Amanda's eyes flashed. I did not try to poison you. Her voice was louder now, more defensive. I studied her carefully. Then explain the powder. She hesitated just for a second. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. It was medication, I frowned. Medication? Yes. For what? Amanda looked away, then back at me. For you. My heart skipped a beat. What are you talking about? She took a slow breath. You've been forgetting things lately, Dad. That happens at my age. Yes, she said, but it's getting worse. I stared at her. So you decided to secretly put drugs in my milk. It was just a mild sedative, she said quickly. Something to help you sleep. Without telling me, I didn't want to worry you. The explanation sounded weak and Amanda knew it. That's not your decision to make, I said firmly. She looked irritated now. I'm trying to take care of you. No, I replied, you're trying to control me. For the first time that night, Amanda's composure cracked, her jaw tightened. You know what? She snapped. Maybe this was a mistake. What was? Letting you live here. The words hit me like a slap. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then Amanda grabbed the empty glass again and walked toward the cabinet. I have an early meeting tomorrow, she said coldly, so I'm going to bed. She stopped in the doorway. And before leaving the kitchen, she said something that made my stomach twist. Next time, Dad, maybe you should think twice before believing a child's imagination. Then she walked away. Her footsteps echoed up the stairs. A few seconds later, her bedroom door closed. The house fell silent again, but this time the silence felt different, heavier, darker. I stood in the kitchen for a long time, staring at the sink where the milk had disappeared. Medication, that's what Amanda claimed it was, but Lily's words echoed in my mind. Once he drinks it, everything will finally be solved. That didn't sound like someone giving their father a sleeping pill. Slowly, I turned off the kitchen light and headed toward the stairs. When I reached Lily's room, I knocked softly. Grandpa, her voice sounded small and scared. I opened the door. She was sitting in bed, hugging her stuffed rabbit. Did Mom get mad? She asked. A little, I admitted. Lily looked down. I told you the truth. I know. I sat on the edge of her bed. Lily, are you absolutely sure you saw her put something in the milk? She nodded immediately. Yes, and you heard what she said on the phone? Yes. What exactly did she say? Lily hesitated. Then she whispered something that made the blood drain from my face. She said tomorrow night everything will be finished. A cold chill ran through my body. Tomorrow night. I forced a smile and tucked the blanket around her. Try to sleep, sweetheart. But Grandpa, it's okay, I said gently. I promise I'll figure this out. Lily closed her eyes slowly. Within minutes, her breathing became soft and steady. But I didn't leave right away. I sat there in the dim light thinking something was very wrong in this house, and for the first time in my life, I was afraid of my own daughter. As I quietly stood to leave Lily's room, I noticed something on her nightstand. A small folded piece of paper. Curious, I picked it up. It looked like something Lily had drawn earlier that day. But when I unfolded it, my heart nearly stopped, because the drawing showed something terrifying. A stick figure lying on the floor, a glass beside it, and another figure standing above it, holding a bottle labeled with one word. The drawing. For a long moment, I simply stared at the paper in my hands. The drawing was simple, the way children draw things. Two stick figures. One lying on the ground, the other standing above it. Beside the figure on the ground was a glass, and next to the standing figure was a bottle. Above the bottle, Lily had carefully written one word in uneven letters. Poison. A cold wave ran through my chest. Children sometimes draw strange things. Monsters, dragons. Even scary scenes from movies, but Lily didn't watch scary movies. Amanda was very strict about that. My eyes slowly moved back to the drawing. The figure on the floor had small lines around it, like shaking or dying, and the figure standing above it had long hair, just like Amanda. My heart began beating harder. Maybe it's just imagination, I whispered to myself. But the words didn't convince me. I carefully folded the paper and slipped it into my robe pocket. Then I quietly left Lily's room and walked back to my bedroom. The hallway felt colder than before. The house creaked softly around me as if it were alive. When I reached my room, I closed the door and sat on the edge of my bed. Sleep was impossible now. My mind kept replaying everything Lily had said. Once he drinks it, everything will finally be solved. Tomorrow night, everything will be finished. Those were not the words of someone giving their father a sleeping pill. I looked at the photograph of Margaret on my nightstand. Her warm smile seemed to watch me silently. You always said I trusted people too easily, I murmured. Maybe she had been right. I stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the street was quiet. A single streetlight cast a yellow glow across the empty road. Everything looked peaceful. But inside this house, something felt terribly wrong. After a few minutes of thinking, I made a decision. If Amanda was telling the truth, I would find proof. And if she was, I needed to know that too. Slowly, I opened my bedroom door again and stepped into the hallway. Amanda's room was at the end of the hall. Her door was closed. The faint light underneath told me she was still awake, probably on her phone, or maybe talking to someone again. I walked quietly toward the stairs instead. Every step had to be careful. Old wooden floors can betray you with the smallest creak. When I reached the bottom floor, the house was completely silent. The kitchen looked exactly the same as before. Except the glass of milk was gone, the sink was dry. Amanda had cleaned everything too quickly, too carefully. I walked slowly to the trash bin beside the counter. My heart was pounding as I lifted the lid. Inside were paper towels, a cereal box, and some food wrappers. Then I saw it, a small white plastic packet. I reached inside and pulled it out. The packet was empty, but the label was still readable. When I saw the name printed on it, my stomach tightened. It wasn't a vitamin, it wasn't a sleeping pill either. It was a strong medication. The kind used in hospitals, and one of the side effects listed in small letters made my hands tremble. Severe cardiac complications, heart problems, my chest felt tight. 6 months ago, I had been hospitalized for heart surgery. Amanda knew exactly how fragile my heart still was. I stared at the packet for a long time. Why would she give me this? I whispered. Then another thought hit me. Maybe Amanda didn't expect the medication to kill me instantly. Maybe she expected something else, a heart attack. At my age, with my medical history, everyone would assume it was natural. My hands began shaking. I quickly placed the packet back into the trash. If Amanda discovered it missing, she might become suspicious. I turned to leave the kitchen, but just as I reached the hallway, I heard a sound upstairs, a door opening. My heart jumped. Footsteps slowly moved across the hallway above me. Amanda, without thinking, I switched off the kitchen light. The room fell into darkness. I stepped quietly into the living room and stayed completely still. The footsteps reached the stairs. Step, step, step. Amanda walked down slowly. She stopped at the bottom of the stairs. For several seconds, she didn't move. I held my breath, then she walked into the kitchen. The refrigerator opened. Cold light filled the room. She stood there for a moment. Then I heard the sink faucet turn on. Water ran for a few seconds. Then the refrigerator closed. Her footsteps moved toward the hallway again. I stayed frozen in the darkness. Finally, I heard her walk back upstairs. A bedroom door closed. Silence returned to the house. Only then did I breathe again. My heart was beating wildly. Slowly, I walked back to the stairs and climbed up. But before returning to my room, I stopped outside Amanda's door. From inside, I could hear her voice. She was whispering on the phone again. I leaned closer without making a sound. Tomorrow, she said quietly, a pause, then she continued. Yes, he almost drank it tonight. My blood turned cold. Another pause, then Amanda laughed softly. Don't worry, she whispered. Tomorrow night everything will be finished. My chest tightened. Lily had been telling the truth, every word. Amanda continued speaking. I just need the documents ready. Another pause, then she said something that made my knees feel weak. Once he's gone, the house will finally be mine. The house, of course. 2 years ago, after my surgery, I had changed my will. The house legally still belonged to me. Amanda would inherit it only after my death, and the property was worth nearly $1 million now. My heart felt heavy. Was money really enough to make someone do this? Even to their own father? I stepped away from the door quietly. My mind was racing. Tomorrow night. That's when Amanda planned to try again, which meant I had less than 24 hours to figure out what to do. When I finally returned to my room, I locked the door for the first time since moving into this house. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall. The realization was almost unbearable. My own daughter, the little girl I had once carried on my shoulders, was planning to kill me, and the only person who had tried to warn me was an 8-year-old child, Lily. Suddenly, another thought struck me. If Amanda was capable of hurting me, what was stopping her from hurting Lily too? That thought filled me with a new kind of fear. I stood up and walked back to the door. This time I didn't go toward the hallway. I went to my desk, opened the drawer, and took out my phone. My fingers hesitated for a moment. Then I dialed a number I hadn't called in years. After 3 rings, a deep voice answered. Hello, Tom, I said quietly. This is Harold Bennett. There was a brief silence. Then the voice on the other end sounded surprised. Harold, it's been a long time. Tom Walker had been my closest friend for 40 years. He had also been a detective before retiring 5 years ago. I'm sorry to call so late, I said, but I think my daughter might be trying to kill me. The line went completely silent. Then Tom spoke again, his voice was serious now. Harold, start from the beginning. I took a deep breath and began telling him everything, but when I finished explaining, Tom said something that made my blood run cold. Harold, he said slowly. If what you're saying is true, tomorrow night might not be the only danger. What do you mean? I asked. There was a pause. Then he said 5 words that made my heart stop. You might not be her first. A dark past Tom's words echoed in my ears long after he said them. You might not be her first. For several seconds I couldn't speak. What are you talking about? I finally whispered. On the other end of the phone, Tom exhaled slowly. Harold, listen carefully, he said. I'm not accusing your daughter of anything yet. But the way you described this situation, it reminds me of a case I saw years ago. My stomach tightened. What case? A woman who slowly poisoned her husband, Tom said. Small doses over time. Enough to weaken his heart until one night he collapsed. The room suddenly felt colder, and everyone thought it was natural, Tom continued. Exactly, I swallowed hard. But that's not Amanda, I said quickly. She's my daughter, I raised her. Tom didn't respond right away. Then he asked quietly, Harold, has Amanda ever had serious money problems? The question caught me off guard. Well, yes, I admitted. Her business hasn't been doing well lately. How bad? I hesitated. 2 months ago she asked me if I would consider transferring the house to her name early. And I refused, I said. I told her she'd inherit it eventually, but not while I'm still alive. Tom was silent again. That's important, he said finally. My chest felt tight. Tom, do you really think she would kill me for money? I think desperate people can do terrible things, he replied. The words hurt more than I expected. What should I do? I asked. Tom's voice became calm and professional. First, do not drink or eat anything she gives you. I wasn't planning to. Second, we need proof, he continued. Proof, yes. If she really is trying to poison you, we need evidence. I rubbed my forehead. What kind of evidence? Video, audio, anything that shows what she's doing. I glanced around my room. I don't have anything like that. Your phone has a camera, Tom said. That might work. My mind began racing. But how do I catch her? Tom paused. Tomorrow night, he said slowly. You pretend nothing happened. Pretend? Yes, act normal. Let her believe you still trust her. A chill ran through me, and when she tries again, you record it. The plan sounded simple. But the idea of waiting for my own daughter to try poisoning me again made my stomach twist. What if she does something worse? I asked. I'll be ready, Tom said firmly. What do you mean? I'm coming over tomorrow evening. Relief washed over me. You will? Yes, but she can't know I'm there. Of course. Tom continued explaining the plan. He would park down the street. If anything went wrong, I would call him immediately. Harold, he said before ending the call, one more thing. Yes, keep Lily close to you tomorrow. My heart skipped. You think she's in danger too? I don't know, Tom replied. But if Amanda is desperate enough to harm you, we can't take chances. After the call ended, I sat quietly for a long time. My world felt like it had turned upside down. The little girl I once tucked into bed, the teenager I taught how to drive, the woman I trusted with my home, could she really be capable of murder? Eventually, exhaustion pulled me into a restless sleep. The next morning, sunlight crept through the curtains when I opened my eyes. For a moment, everything felt normal again. Then the memories returned. The milk, the phone call, the empty medication packet. I got dressed and walked downstairs. Amanda was already in the kitchen. She stood by the coffee machine scrolling through her phone. Morning, Dad, she said casually. Her tone sounded completely normal, as if nothing had happened. Morning, I replied. She poured coffee into 2 cups. You look tired, she said. Didn't sleep well. Maybe you should try warm milk tonight, she said with a faint smile. The words made my stomach turn. But I forced a small chuckle. Maybe. Lily came running into the kitchen a moment later. Grandpa, she hugged me tightly. I could feel her small arms shaking slightly. Amanda noticed. Lily, she said sharply, let Grandpa breathe. Lily let go but stayed close to me. Her eyes met mine for a second. She looked worried. I gave her a small, reassuring nod. Everything had to look normal. Breakfast was quiet. Amanda checked emails on her phone. Lily pushed her cereal around the bowl, and I kept replaying Tom's plan in my mind. Finally, Amanda stood up. I have meetings today, she said. I'll be home late. Then she added something that made my chest tighten. But tonight we should have a proper family dinner. Dinner, my heart pounded. That must be when she planned to try again. What time? I asked casually. 7, she replied, then she grabbed her purse. Oh, and Dad, yes, I'll bring dessert. Her smile lingered for a second longer than necessary, then she walked out the door. The moment her car drove away, Lily grabbed my hand. Grandpa, she's going to do it tonight. I knelt beside her. Listen carefully, I said softly. I need you to trust me, okay? Her eyes filled with tears. I'm scared, I know, but Grandpa is going to make sure everything is okay. She hugged me again, and for the first time in years, I realized something terrifying. The safest person in this house wasn't the adult, it was the child who knew the truth. That afternoon, Tom arrived around 5 o'clock. He parked 2 houses away, just like he promised. When I opened the door for him, he looked older than I remembered, but his eyes were still sharp. "Where's Amanda?" he asked quietly. "At work." He stepped inside. "And Lily?" "Upstairs watching cartoons." Tom nodded. "Good." We sat at the kitchen table while he examined the trash bin. He quickly found the empty medication packet. His expression darkened. "Where did she get this?" he muttered. "Is it dangerous?" I asked. Tom looked at me seriously. "Harold, this isn't a sleeping pill. I figured that. This drug can trigger heart failure in someone your age." My stomach twisted. "So Lily was right." Tom nodded slowly. "Yes." The house suddenly felt colder again. "What happens tonight?" I asked. Tom leaned back in his chair. "Tonight," he said, "we catch her." But just then a car door slammed outside. Tom's eyes snapped toward the window. "That must be Amanda," I whispered. Tom stood up quickly. "Where can I hide?" Before I could answer, the front door began to open. And Amanda's voice echoed through the hallway. "I'm home." But there was something strange in her tone, something excited. And as her footsteps entered the kitchen, she said something that made my blood run cold. "Dad, I brought something special for dinner tonight." The dinner trap. Amanda stepped into the kitchen carrying 2 large grocery bags. Her smile looked bright, too bright. "Dad," she said cheerfully, "I stopped by the store after work." I forced myself to stay calm. "That's nice." Behind me, Tom had already slipped quietly into the small storage pantry beside the kitchen. From there, he could see the entire room through a narrow crack in the door. Amanda placed the bags on the counter and began taking things out. Fresh bread, a container of soup, a bottle of wine, and finally a small white box. She set the box down carefully. "Dessert," she said. Lily slowly walked into the kitchen. Her eyes immediately moved to the box. "What is it?" she asked nervously. Amanda smiled at her. "Your favorite." "Chocolate cake." Lily didn't smile back. Instead, she moved closer to me and grabbed my hand. Amanda noticed. "You two look like you're planning a secret," she joked. "Just tired," I said. Amanda shrugged and began preparing dinner. The smell of soup slowly filled the kitchen. For a moment, everything looked perfectly normal. But my heart was pounding so loudly I was afraid she might hear it. I remembered Tom's instructions. Act normal. At exactly 7 o'clock, Amanda placed 3 bowls of soup on the table. Then she opened the cake box. The chocolate cake looked rich and soft. "Dinner is served," she said happily. We all sat down. Lily stayed very close to me. Amanda lifted her spoon and took the first bite. She said, "Perfect." Then she looked at me. "Aren't you going to eat, Dad?" I forced a smile and lifted my spoon. But before the soup reached my mouth, Lily suddenly dropped her spoon. It clattered loudly against the floor. "Oh," Amanda snapped, "be careful." "Sorry," Lily whispered. She bent down to pick it up. But while she was under the table, she whispered something so quietly only I could hear it. "Grandpa," she touched your bowl. My hand froze. Slowly, I placed the spoon back into the soup. Amanda watched me carefully. "Is something wrong?" she asked. "No," I replied calmly. "I just remembered something." "What?" "My doctor told me to avoid heavy soup tonight," I said casually. Amanda's smile faded slightly. "That's strange." "Why?" "Because yesterday you said you loved my soup." I shrugged. "Doctor's orders." Amanda stared at me for a few seconds. Then she laughed softly. "All right," she said, "more for me." She reached across the table and then something unexpected happened. She switched our bowls. "Here," she said. "You can take mine." My heart nearly stopped. Now the bowl in front of me was the one she had already been eating. Which meant if the poison had been in my original bowl, Amanda had just given it to herself. For a split second, confusion crossed her face. She hadn't expected that reaction from me. But before she could say anything, Tom's voice suddenly came from behind us. "That's enough." Amanda's head snapped toward the pantry. The door opened. Tom stepped out holding his phone, which had been recording everything. Amanda jumped to her feet. "What is this?" she shouted. Tom walked calmly toward the table. "Detective Tom Walker," he said firmly. Amanda's face turned pale. "What are you doing in my house?" "Watching you attempt to poison your father." "That's ridiculous," she yelled. Tom pointed at the bowls. "Then you won't mind switching them back." Amanda looked at the soup, then back at Tom. "I'm not playing this stupid game." Tom smiled slightly. "Neither am I," he turned to me. "Harold, would you like to explain what we found in the trash earlier?" Amanda's eyes widened. "What trash?" "The medication packet," Tom said. Amanda's breathing became faster. "I don't know what you're talking about." Tom placed his phone on the table. The screen showed the recording of our entire dinner, including the moment she touched my bowl. "You're in serious trouble," he said calmly. Amanda suddenly laughed, but it wasn't the same laugh as before. This one sounded almost desperate. You think you're so clever, she said, then she looked directly at me. You ruined everything, Dad. My chest felt heavy. Amanda, why? Her face twisted with anger. Because you never trusted me. I gave you everything. No, she shouted, you kept everything. She pointed around the house. This house should be mine already. Tom stepped forward. You just confessed to motive. Amanda ignored him. Her eyes were locked on me now. I waited years, she said bitterly. Years for you to finally die. The words hit like a hammer. Lily started crying beside me. Mom, stop. But Amanda barely looked at her. I was tired of waiting, she continued. So yes, I helped things along. The room went completely silent. Tom slowly picked up the soup bowl. Well, he said quietly, that's going straight to the lab. Amanda's shoulders suddenly dropped. For the first time, she looked defeated. You don't understand, she murmured. Tom frowned. What don't we understand? Amanda looked up slowly. Her eyes were cold again. You think this was my first time? My heart skipped. Tom crossed his arms. Was it? Amanda smiled faintly. No, the single word sent a chill through the room. What do you mean? I asked weakly. Amanda tilted her head slightly. Ask the insurance company about Lily's father. My breath caught. Lily's father had died 4 years ago. Everyone believed it was a sudden heart attack. Tom's expression darkened immediately. You're saying you poisoned him too? Amanda didn't answer, but her silence said everything. Lily burst into tears. Mom, no, Tom took out his phone. I'm calling the police. Amanda didn't try to stop him. She simply sat down in the chair, looking strangely calm. But just before Tom finished dialing, Amanda said something that made the room freeze. You're too late. Tom slowly lowered the phone. What did you say? Amanda looked at the soup bowl in front of me, then she smiled. Because the poison wasn't in the soup. My heart stopped. Slowly, terrifyingly, Amanda turned her eyes toward the cake. The cake. Amanda's eyes slowly moved toward the chocolate cake sitting in the center of the table. For a moment, no one spoke. Tom's hand froze halfway to his phone. My chest felt tight. What do you mean? Tom asked slowly. Amanda leaned back in her chair. The soup was just a distraction, she said calmly. My heart began pounding harder. Lily looked at the cake with wide, frightened eyes. No, she whispered. Tom carefully stepped toward the table. You're saying the poison is in the cake? Amanda smiled faintly. You detectives always look in the obvious places. My mind started racing. Had anyone eaten the cake yet? I tried to remember. Amanda had opened the box, but no one had taken a slice, not yet. Tom slowly reached for the cake box. Don't touch it, Amanda said suddenly. Tom stopped. Why? Amanda tilted her head. Because if you test it, you'll realize something interesting. My throat felt dry. What? I asked. Amanda's eyes moved to Lily, then back to me. The poison activates only after digestion. The room felt like it was spinning. Stop talking in riddles, Tom snapped. Amanda sighed. You really don't understand. She pointed to the cake again. The poison is in the frosting. Lily started crying harder. Mom, why are you doing this? Amanda looked at her daughter. For a brief moment, something softer appeared in her eyes. But it disappeared quickly. Because life isn't fair, she said coldly. Tom grabbed a napkin and carefully lifted a small piece of frosting from the cake. He smelled it. His expression darkened. We're taking this to the lab, he said. Amanda laughed again. You're still missing the point. What point? I asked. Amanda leaned forward slightly. Dad, she said softly, you didn't think I'd plan something this simple, did you? My stomach twisted. What are you talking about? Amanda's smile widened slowly. The poison isn't just in the cake. The room went completely silent. Tom's eyes narrowed. Explain. Amanda glanced at the wine bottle sitting on the table, then at the soup, then finally at me. I prepared everything very carefully. My hands began shaking. You poisoned everything? Tom asked. Amanda shrugged. Not everything. Then what? Amanda took a deep breath. Only the thing I knew he would eventually consume. My mind raced through the dinner again. The soup, the cake, the wine, then suddenly my heart skipped. The milk. The glass of milk she always left for me every night. Amanda slowly stood up. You see, detective, she said, people follow habits. She looked directly at me. Dad has one very predictable habit. My chest felt tight again. Every night before bed, she continued calmly, he drinks a glass of milk. Tom stared at her. You already tried that yesterday, Amanda smiled, and tonight I improved the formula. A cold wave ran through my body. You poisoned the milk again? I asked. Amanda nodded slightly. But this time the dose is perfect. Tom grabbed his phone again. The police are coming. Amanda didn't react. Instead, she looked strangely relaxed. You can call whoever you want, she said. Because by the time they arrive, she looked directly into my eyes. The poison will already be working. My heart began racing wildly. What do you mean? Tom demanded. Amanda pointed toward the kitchen counter, the exact spot where the milk glass always sat. Slowly, terrifyingly, my eyes moved in that direction, and there it was, a fresh glass of milk, waiting. 10 minutes later, police sirens echoed outside the house. Two patrol cars stopped in the driveway. Officers rushed inside. Tom quickly explained everything: the cake, the medication packet. Amanda's confession. Amanda didn't resist when the officers placed handcuffs on her wrists. She simply smiled. As they led her toward the door, she looked back at me one last time. "You should have trusted me, Dad," she said softly. "Then you wouldn't have had to be afraid." The officers took her outside. The front door closed. The house finally fell silent again. Tom turned to me. "You okay?" I nodded slowly. "I think so," but then Lily suddenly gasped. "Grandpa, what?" She pointed toward the kitchen counter. My heart jumped again. The glass of milk was still there, untouched. Tom walked over and carefully smelled it, then he shook his head. "We'll have the lab test it." I sat down heavily in the chair. The tension that had filled the house all day finally began to fade. Lily hugged me tightly. "Grandpa, you're safe now." I wrapped my arms around her. "Yes," I whispered. "I am." But later that night, after the police had taken Amanda away, after Tom had gone home, after Lily had finally fallen asleep, I walked quietly into the kitchen. The house felt empty. Lonely, my eyes moved to the counter. The glass of milk was still there, exactly where Amanda had left it. For a long moment, I simply stared at it, then I slowly picked it up and poured it down the sink. The white liquid disappeared into the drain, just like the one the night before, but this time I knew the truth. Sometimes the most dangerous people in the world are the ones we trust the most, and sometimes the smallest voice in the house is the one that saves your life. That night, as I turned off the kitchen light, one thought echoed in my mind. If Lily hadn't woken me up, I would never have seen the morning again. The truth that remained: the police cars disappeared down the street, their flashing lights fading into the quiet night. For the first time in hours, the house felt silent, too silent. Tom had already left after giving his statement to the officers. Before leaving, he placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "Harold," he said, "you did the right thing. And Lily saved your life tonight." I nodded, though the weight in my chest still hadn't lifted. "Take care of that girl," Tom added before stepping outside. Then the door closed. Now it was just me and Lily. She was curled up on the couch with a blanket wrapped tightly around her small shoulders. Her eyes were red from crying. "Grandpa," she whispered, "is Mom going to jail?" I sat beside her slowly. For a moment I didn't know what to say. "Yes," I answered softly. "She probably will." Lily looked down at her hands. "Did I do something bad?" My heart broke at those words. "No," I said quickly. "You did something very brave." She looked up at me. "But she's my mom." I gently pulled her into a hug. "I know, children should never have to face truths like this. They shouldn't have to realize that the people who are supposed to protect them can sometimes become the ones they fear." But Lily had seen the truth before any of us, and she had the courage to speak. After a few minutes, her breathing slowed as she rested against my shoulder. "I'm sleepy," she murmured. "Let's get you to bed," I said. I walked her upstairs and tucked her in. Just before closing her door, she asked one more question. "Grandpa, will you stay here with me?" The question surprised me. I looked around the quiet hallway. The house suddenly felt very different now, like a place that needed a fresh beginning. "Yes," I said gently. "I'll always stay with you." Lily smiled weakly and closed her eyes. Within minutes, she was asleep. The next morning, sunlight filled the kitchen as I made breakfast. For the first time in a long while, the house felt calm. No tension, no whispered phone calls, no hidden secrets, just silence. Lily came downstairs wearing her pajamas. "Good morning," she said quietly. "Good morning, sweetheart." I placed a plate of pancakes in front of her. She smiled slightly. For a moment, everything felt normal again, but then my phone rang. It was Tom. "Harold," he said, "the lab results came back." My stomach tightened. "And the cake frosting contained a toxic compound," he said. My heart skipped. "But that's not the worst part." "What do you mean?" There was a short pause. "The medication packet we found last night," Tom continued. "Yes, we checked Amanda's purchase history. And she bought the same drug 4 years ago." 4 years ago, my chest tightened. "That's when Lily's father died," I whispered. Tom sighed. "Yes, so it wasn't a heart attack." "No," Tom said quietly. "It was." I closed my eyes. The truth felt heavy. Amanda hadn't just tried to poison me, she had already done it once before. "Thank you for telling me," I said softly. "Take care of Lily," Tom replied. "I will." After the call ended, I looked across the table. Lily was eating her pancakes quietly. She looked up and smiled. And in that moment, I realized something important. Families are not just the people who share your blood. They are the people who protect you, the people who tell the truth even when it's scary, the people who stand beside you when everything falls apart. And in this house, the bravest person of all was an 8-year-old girl who refused to stay silent. 1 year later, the house looked brighter than it had in years. Fresh paint, new curtains, and laughter. Lily ran across the living room holding a drawing. "Grandpa." "Look," I took the paper and smiled. It showed two stick figures holding hands. Above them, she had written, "Grandpa and me, do you like it?" she asked. I love it. Then she pointed to something else in the drawing, a small heart between the two figures. For luck, she said proudly. I placed the drawing on the refrigerator. Perfect, I said. Outside the window, the sun was shining, and for the first time in a long time, the house felt safe. White heavy check marked the end.